Hey Archery Talk, this is Lucas and I've got a bit of an out-of-the-box video for you guys. CIVIVI Knife Co. reached out to me a little while ago and asked me if I'd be interested in testing out one of their knives, and they sent me this Vision FG. If you don't know, I am a bit of a knife nut, a knife aficionado. I've got a collection of maybe 20 knives, a combination of folders and hunting knives. I've been doing that for, like 5 or 6 years. I get some of them I've had for as long as 10 years before I was really kind of more into it. But regardless, CIVIVI reached out, and because I own some other CIVIVIs already, I was happy to get another one in my hands. And this knife in particular was of interest to me because this, I believe, is the first knife CIVIVI has had with their super lock system. So the super lock is the, you typically see a folding knife with a liner lock, which kind of be in here, they kind of move away with your thumbnail, or a frame lock, which is a little more robust and you kind of move part of the frame with your thumb to kind of unlock the knife. This one is all just at the back, so you just kind of push that down and then the knife folds for you. You can flip it open and close very easily with it down there like that. It's also got thumb studs on either side, so you can kind of pop it open with your thumb like that, or I like to use my finger on this side and play with it like that. This is a knife that is super fidgety, so I'm a grown-up. I don't have fidget spinners. I've got pocket knives, and I sit at my desk when I'm working or trying to think of something, and I'll just flick away the day doing this and driving other people in my house crazy because all I could hear is click, click, click. Let's look at some of the details on this Vision FG. Full length of this knife is 7.95 inches. The blade length is 3.54 inches, so just over 3.5. The blade thickness is 0.12 inches. That is 3 millimeters for you metric folks out there. So it's a, I would call that kind of medium-sized blade stock, not super thick. So I like thick knives, while they're super robust, are not super slicey. This one is still a very slicey. It gets very, obviously, tapers and thins towards the blade, and it's a super slicey knife. This reverse tanto blade has got all sorts of cutting edge on it. So it's a great knife to kind of carry around to do all sorts of your daily utility cutting needs with. It's got lots of blade. It's got also a beautiful Damascus blade on this. All 3 CIVIVI knives I've owned in the past have that Damascus material on it. They're all different kind of patterns on it, but it's just, is it necessary? No. Is it nice to look at? Yes, that's why I got it. I've also got this one with micarta scales on this knife. I'm a big fan of micarta. Several of my knife collection knives have micarta scales on them. I kind of like how they age, just with the oils of your hands. They'll kind of change color slightly over the years. And just get a little bit more personality to it. This knife, set up as is, retails for a little over $118, but the Vision FG is available in a number of different layouts. So I think the cheapest ones are $92. The regular blade on this would be a Nitro V blade, which is a fantastic knife steel, and that's available on most of the other Vision FGs you'll see out there that don't have the Damascus blade. They've got different handle materials and all sorts of things kind of set it apart, but the price range is in that $92 to $120 range. It's not exactly a cheap knife by any stretch of the imagination, but if you're a knife nerd out there, you know that it's not exactly wildly expensive. A feature of this knife I like quite a bit is this deep carry pocket clip. So this will absolutely disappear into your pocket. Very little shows, so if you don't want anyone else to know that you're carrying a knife, they probably wouldn't be able to tell what's in your pocket whatsoever. So it carries, low down in your pocket. I'm a deep pocket clip kind of fan. My only downside I found with this one is I don't know how I did it one day, but I just pulled it out of my pocket and it was all bent out a little bit. So I just unscrewed it, put it on the other way and bent it over until it was kind of where I want it to be, put it back over again. And it's working fine right now. I think you can get a different pocket clip for this, which is a little bit more sturdy. It just won't be the deep carry style like this that'll kind of disappear into your pocket. This knife is not large by any stretch of the imagination, but it's larger than most other pocket knives I own. It's the other CIVIVIs I own are quite small, and we'll get to those in a little while. But so if you're looking for a super micro knife, this is not going to be the one for you. But if you got big hands, like I'm 6'2", I have fairly large hands, so this knife fits in my hands very well. I can do obviously all 4 fingers on there with no problem to get all the detail work I want to have. I always carry a knife in my archery kit. I've always got one in my quiver. I usually keep a small knife with a super slicey small, like a thin blade steel. That's kind of good for making, serving cuts or whatever else I got to do. If I'm trying to remove a peep sight from a bow, I don't want to cut the string. I want to be very delicate with that. So I'm looking for the knife with the most precision. I probably wouldn't use this knife for that. I would choose one of my smaller ones. But as far as like a daily carry, this one has been fantastic. It's been in my pocket basically every day for 6 weeks, 8 weeks now. It doesn't really leave the house I don't leave the house much without this knife. As far as a comparison goes, as far as my collection is concerned, I really have only got one knife that kind of is similar in size, although it's a much different style, and that is my Benchmade Griptilian. So this knife, here I'll kind of pull them up side by side for you. Again, pretty similar overall size. The Griptilian is a touch longer at 8.07 inches. The blade length is actually a very little bit smaller at 3.45 inches, so about 1/10 of an inch difference in there. And the closed length on this one is 4.62 inches. Again, just a hair longer than this one is closed, but realistically they're very similar. I would say, like, height-wise, the Griptilian is going to be a noticeably taller knife, but it's actually a little bit lighter overall, I think largely due to the scales on this knife. It's kind of got these little kind of hollow plasticky scales on here, and that makes the total weight of this knife like 3.88 ounces rather than this one was just a touch over 4 ounces. Very close overall. Obviously the blades are much different. This is a knife I actually got from Yamaha years ago at an ATV event I went to. So it's got the Yamaha branding, which is obviously different, but it's also got a serrated lower half of the knife. I'm not a huge fan of serrations, but they can come in handy in certain situations, just not many that I would come across. So the Griptilian is a fairly good size comparison. I think the Spyderco Paramilitary 2 would be another one of a similar size. I'm sure there's a bunch of others out there. Just most of the other folders I have are quite small. I mentioned off the top I have a couple of other CIVIVI knives that I've bought with my own money over the years, and the first one is this micarta. It's also got the Damascus blade that you can see here. It's a super tiny, super slicey knife. This is the kind of knife I like to have in my archery kit. You can just make such fine work. Can't really get comfortably all 4 fingers on there. The pinky comes off a little bit, but again, for the purpose that it serves, I like it a lot. It's also a front flipper, which is, for me, is the most fun deployment on any knife. You can open it a million different ways, right side up, upside down, if I can get my fingers to work right. Look at that. It's just a super fun and fidgety knife. The other one is this Appalachian Drifter 2. And I picked this one up maybe 2 years ago. I got this one 4 years, maybe 5 years ago. I got the Appalachian Drifter 2 about 2 years ago, and it's also a front flipper. It's also got a Damascus blade, a much sharper point on this knife. And realistically, I just got this knife because I thought it looked cool, and it was inexpensive, and I got it secondhand. It's got a mix of materials on the scales, which are really nice. The blade obviously looks fantastic in person, but comparatively, these two knives are quite a bit smaller than the new CIVIVI. This one's easily the largest of the 3 CIVIVIs that I own. But they have their place in my collection. Archery Talk, this is, again, I mentioned off the top, this is not exactly a traditional Archery Talk video, but I am a knife collector, and I figured I'd share some of that with you guys and with the new CIVIVI Vision for your enjoyment. So please do like, share, and subscribe. It helps the channel an awful lot. If you got any questions, let me know in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them for you. And that's it. Thanks so much for watching.